Hi, how are you today? The improved package has arrived. We're having it fitted in time for FP1. Have a look at the factory report.
What is up, boys and girls, and welcome back to the F1 2017 career mode. For round 7 of season 2, it is of course the Canadian Grand Prix. Now, it's been such a long time since we have done an F1 2017 career mode episode, but I can tell you the series is back, and it will be back to 3 episodes guaranteed every single week. So you can definitely look forward to that, as well as Rags to Riches free and a bunch load of other Formula 1 content on this channel as well. So if you're not already subscribed, get subscribed right now for all of that. But it's been such a long time since the previous episode that some of you guys may have forgotten what happened and what has even happened in this whole entire career mode story. So basically, if you do want to go catch up, or if you are new to the series, there will be a card annotation in the top right hand corner of your screen to go catch up with now. There will also be a link down in the description as well. But previous round, I'll go through that one. The Monaco Grand Prix, we had a great qualifying session, and then after penalties as well, we managed to get bumped off the field and start P2. We then got up to first on track after turn 1, and then after then it was just a case of trying to lead from the front. It was a really good race, a lot of pressure from Valtteri Bottas and Max Verstappen behind me, but we got the job done and we got a race win, our second race win of the 2017 career mode. Very happy with that in our second season. 2 race wins with this Renault car. But now going through the practice sessions, of course you saw at the start we did actually have an engine improvement coming into today's racing. I think we were upgrading the engine cylinders, I think it was, so we upgraded those, and that should make us faster around this circuit. But now we've you know, spent those resource points. We need to get some more. We need to get some more resource points, and so we can spend over the rest of the season to, of course, improve this car and make it very competitive. So here we are going through the sessions at the moment, unfortunately ending FP1 at the back of the field. We were doing tests which didn't really matter too much in terms of pace to other drivers, and it did dry up at the end of the session, so that didn't matter too much either. But now going through the other practice programs that we did miss, and we're getting purple scores in all of these ones, so it's very good. It looks like we're going to be gaining a lot of resource points over the course of this race weekend. Now going through the qualifying one, you could just see it momentarily, me throwing it through that final corner, flicking it and catching the car right at the end. But we also get a purple objective for that one, and we're very happy with that. Ending the session in P3, only slower than one of the Mercedes and one of the Ferraris. So that is looking very good at the moment. But let's head over to qualifying.
Hello and welcome from the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, home to the Canadian Grand Prix, for today's qualifying session.
Here we go then, qualifying for the Canadian Grand Prix. And as you saw there in FP2, we were very quick in terms of the qualifying run. So it's looking positive that we could get a very decent result here today. But we need to make sure we don't make any silly mistakes to put us out of contention of the running. There is Fernando Alonso's cars setting up for today's qualifying session. Down now in towards the final chicane, taking it nice and smoothly through the corner, not exactly pushing too much at the start of this qualifying session, because we don't want to bin the car and put it into the wall. But unfortunately, the lap time, it wasn't really quick enough there. P6 at the moment, only quicker than Pascal Wehrlein. We go for a second lap running, taking a lot more curb this time around, really pushing the car. Not quite pushing it to its boundaries just yet, because it is only Q1, but improving on our lap time there by half a second. It's not quite enough to bump us up the field, but we'll have to wait and see what the other drivers' times are setting. Currently in P13 right now, through the final chicane once again, and once more, half a second up on our previous lap time. Not the best of corners though, as we are losing time on the Delta. Coming across the line though, it's P7, and that should be enough. That should be enough to get us into Q2 and into the top 15, which it is at the end of the day. There we go, P11, a little bit slower than my teammate at the end of the session, so that's a little bit frustrating to myself. But the session is not over yet, and there is still every opportunity to get back at Nico Hülkenberg. Here we are now in Q2, running over the curbs, using all the curb on the right hand side as well, pushing the car again, not to its full capabilities, but we are definitely pushing this car very hard at the moment. 13.3, not the best lap times. There is still a bit of time to be improved on there. 4 tenths up on the lap time. Now losing the back end quite a lot through that corner, but we are going to improve on this lap time. It is going to be good enough for a 1:13.0 at the moment, P9 in the qualifying session, but we need to find some more time if we want to get into the top 10 shootout. At the moment, down in P14, behind Danny Kvyat, ahead of Roman Grosjean. This lap, though, is 6 tenths up on our previous best lap time. Whereabouts does it put us? We come across the line, and that's P6. That is a great lap there. 6 tenths up, a 1:12.3. Very, very good lap time ahead of Sergio Perez. At the moment, we are still in P6, though, as we come now for our final lap in this qualifying session. So much quicker through the final corner. We are going to improve. I don't think it's necessary at the end of the day, improving by 1/10 of a second. Nevertheless, we get through. We're into the top 10 shootout, and we're getting through with P6 as well. The best of the rest, pretty much, apart from Max Verstappen, but he set his lap time on the super soft tyres, so that is why we were quicker than the Red Bull driver, but quicker than the Force Indias and quicker than my teammate of Nico Hülkenberg as well. So very, very happy with that at the end of the day. But here we go, the top 10 shootout, Q3 here for our first lap in this session, coming across the line, and it is so far a 1:12.2, a great lap to start off this qualifying session with, putting ourselves up into P5 at the moment. Now coming round the final corner once more to start our final lap in this qualifying session, down towards the start-finish line. What is this lap time going to be good enough for? Will it improve above the 2 Red Bull drivers and maybe even mixed with the Ferraris and the Mercedes as well? Nice and tidy through turn 2. So far, just a little bit up on our delta time, so it looks like our previous lap was very good through there as well. Now in towards turn 3 and turn 4, the very tricky chicane, not quite as quick as we have done so previously, through the little kink on the left and the right. Purple so far, though, of anybody out on track, as the engineer says at the moment that this lap time isn't actually quicker than we've done so far all session. Okay, he is kind of right. We are a little bit down on our delta time, so we flick it through the right, then the left. A little bit, not quite, you know, throwing the car as much as we should really be doing in a qualifying session. That was very, very smooth through that corner. Okay, we ran the curbs quite a lot there, but not really throwing the car in as much as we can do. And now that is a good line through the hairpin to open up this very, very long back straight. We can gain so much time now that we opened up that corner. We're at about 2 tenths up on the previous best lap time. We're still ahead of Max Verstappen. I think Daniel Ricciardo has gone quicker than us at the moment. Yes, dropping down into P5 right, and now Sebastian Vettel goes slower than his teammate Kimi Räikkönen through the final corner, nice and tidy, coming across the line. What about, is this lap time going to be good enough for? Will it secure us P5 at the end of the day? And yes, it does. P5 in the qualifying session, better than both of the Red Bull drivers. What a fantastic qualifying session that was. Daniel Ricciardo behind us in P6. He improved above his teammate of Max Verstappen, but also finishing above Max Verstappen as well. Not by much though, 2 tenths of a second quicker than both of those drivers, but we were 9 whole tenths of a second quicker than Nico Hülkenberg at the end of the day. So we're very, very happy about that qualifying session. Starting from P5 on the grid, quicker than the Red Bulls, and now sort of seeing what we can do against the Mercedes and the Ferraris, although those guys are very, very quick in this season. Look at that, 5 whole tenths quicker than me in the qualifying session alone. But what can we do from 5th place on the grid as we head over to the race for the Canadian Grand Prix?
Joining me on this very wet day is a man who's no stranger to driving in miserable conditions. Anthony Davidson, you've driven open cockpit, you've driven sports cars. How does the wet weather experience change between the different disciplines?
Well, I wouldn't say there's much difference in all honesty. You know, besides the terrifying closing speeds you find in sports cars with the different categories all sharing the same track, driving in the rain is, well, driving in the rain. Of course, the biggest difference between the two is the closed cockpit versus the open cockpit. You get the luxury of staying dry in the sports car, but if your screen ever gets dirty, well, that's a pit stop, not just wiping your visor or pulling away a tear off. But most of the time, you know, they're both as miserable as each other, to be honest.
It's race day here at a very wet Montreal circuit, but before we get into the race, let's have a look at the starting order for today. Kimi Räikkönen lines up in pole position with Valtteri Bottas alongside him in 2nd, and on the 2nd row of the grid it's Lewis Hamilton in 3rd with Sebastian Vettel in 4th. Looking further down the field, myself in 5th with a great qualifying session, beating both Red Bulls. Daniel Ricciardo starts 6th, Max Verstappen in 7th. There's Esteban Ocon in 8th with Sergio Perez in 9th. My teammate Nico Hülkenberg starts in P10 with Sainz 11th and Stroll in 12th. Massa's 13th with Kvyat in 14th. Then the 2 Hasses of Roman Grosjean in 15th. Kevin Magnussen in 16th. Fernando Alonso in 17th with Marcus Ericsson in 18th. And at the back of the field we have Pascal Wehrlein P19 and Stoffel Van Dorn right at the very back of the grid. So here we are for today's race, the Canadian Grand Prix, and like I've said, it is very, very wet out on circuit here today. The rain going from full wet to intermediates to dry to intermediates to dry again. So it's going to be a bit tricky to try and get that race strategy right. But for now, we will be sticking with the full wet tyres. Let's get today's race, though, underway as the lights are starting to come on. We go to 5 red lights for the Canadian Grand Prix, and it is lights out, and away we go in these torrential conditions at Canada, as we now look to go up the inside, down in towards turn 1, up the inside of Sebastian Vettel. They're not quite got the job done, though, as he is still on the right-hand side as we go through turn 2, giving him so much room there on the inside. Unfortunately, Sebastian Vettel has got the job done. We're going to see if maybe we can stick it around the outside down towards turn 3. Looks like we might have just about done so, but unfortunately having to take that sort of escape route over the grass, and that means we had to give that position back to Sebastian Vettel. So Vettel for now holds on to P4. We're going to have to settle for P5, but we are ahead of both of the Red Bull drivers. However, in these tricky wet conditions, I expect the Red Bull drivers to be a little bit quicker than myself around here. I mean, they've got better aerodynamics than ourselves in the Renault. But here on lap 5, it doesn't actually look like either of the Red Bull drivers are doing too much at the moment. Unfortunately, losing the back end a little bit out of the hairpin. We're not really closing up on Sebastian Vettel either, so we're just going to have to wait and see what we can do with the other drivers around us. Neither of the Red Bulls seem to be gaining on us too much as well, so it's just going to be a case of seeing what we can do. And it looks like we are actually coming into the pits for a set of, I'm going to say, intermediate tyres. There is no reason why we would be coming into the pits for another set of full wet, so we must be going on to the intermediate tyres. And yes, we are. Other drivers doing a similar strategy as well. The Mercedes and the Ferrari there. Looks like one of the Red Bulls came in behind me. So is Nico Hülkenberg. So we are coming into the pits now for a set of intermediate tyres. A very quick pit stop, though, from the Renault crew. 2.2 seconds, and that will get me out in P10 for the time being. Still ahead of the Red Bull driver. I think that is Daniel Ricciardo right behind me, but I could be mistaken. It could be Max Verstappen, because both of the Red Bulls running very close to each other out on the circuit. But now it's a case of, did this undercut work? Of course, we've got one Mercedes, one Ferrari, and one Red Bull driver still out on those full wet tyres. If it just wasn't ready for the intermediate tyres, they may get the jump on us by the end of this lap. We're just going to have to wait and see as we go through the left now, catching up to Romain Grosjean. He is on the wet tyres, so this will be an indicator whether we are quicker on the intermediate tyres or not. We're not really closing him up at a rapid pace at the moment, but I think we are pulling him in every now and again. You can just see Romain Grosjean now really starting to struggle. It looks like there is actually a train of cars getting held up, including one of the Ferraris. I think that is of Kimi Räikkönen. Yes, it is. We might have a little look up the inside of Kimi Räikkönen. Not able to do so as Romain Grosjean looks around the outside into the hairpin. Not quite able to get the job done on Kimi Räikkönen and Valtteri Bottas, who are currently getting held up by the Toro Rosso and the Williams ahead of us at the moment. Coming down in towards this chicane. They're going to go for the overtake now. Going to have a look up the inside on Kimi Räikkönen. Down into the chicane. Do we go for it? We back out of it for the time being. Kimi Räikkönen goes straight on. He's not coming into the pits. He just goes straight on there. I guess he just overshot his mark. The yellow flags have come out because of Kimi Räikkönen's mistake, so I'm not too sure what exactly he is doing. We've got the other drivers on the left-hand side. Whereabouts will they rejoin on the circuit? It looks like Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton have actually got the overcut done on us, because I think Valtteri Bottas, yes, he was in second place. Kimi Räikkönen was leading the race before he made the switch onto the intermediate tyres, and now, unfortunately, it looks like those guys have got out ahead, but it could have been down to Bottas and Räikkönen getting held up. So I do think that actually we have caught up to Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton out on track, only by a little bit, but in racing, every few tenths of a second does count. And now we're having a look at replay of what exactly happened to Kimi Räikkönen. So unfortunately, he is now down in 20th position for today's race. Let's have a look at what happened to the Ferrari driver. You're going to see myself pop up on the right hand side of your screens any second now. Unfortunately, there's just a big bit of water there stopping you from actually seeing myself, but there Kimi Räikkönen just goes straight on, slams on the brakes, couldn't do anything, completely locked up his tyres, then just sits on the inside of that chicane, nowhere to go. He's out of the way of everybody else, just waiting for all of the other drivers to go through, and then he comes back onto the track. And now what brought out the yellow flag or anything more? No, he just goes straight into the barrier. Kimi Räikkönen, forgetting all of his years of racing, all of the experience that he has had of driving a Formula 1 car, and then just goes straight into the barrier. So I don't know what exactly Kimi Räikkönen was thinking there to go straight into the barrier, but that is why he is now right out the back of the field, because he's going to have to come into the pits for a new front wing. So unfortunately, Kimi Räikkönen, his race is pretty much over. But we cut ahead now to lap 10, setting the fastest lap of the race so far. So it does look like we are now starting to pull in on Valtteri Bottas, Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel as well, and get a little bit of a gap to Max Verstappen, who's currently running behind us. We now cut ahead 2 laps later on to lap 12. It looks like the rain has stopped out on track, or is it? No, it is still raining out on track, but there is a dry line forming, so we might be considering going on to the dry tyres. If we could go for that strategy and it actually works out, then that could be a real good chance to stay ahead of the Red Bull drivers. Of course, we would like to catch up to the Mercedes and the Ferrari and maybe get onto the podium once more, but it's all about seeing whether we can beat the Red Bulls. Those are the drivers that we are battling with in the championship, in both the drivers and the constructors. But now we are coming into the pits for a set of what should be dry tyres here today, and I think the Red Bull is doing the same. The Red Bull is going on to the softs, but what tyres are we going on? We're going on to the ultra softs. Okay, so we are making that strategy call, and we are going on to the ultra soft tyres for today's race. We're going to push like hell on these ultra soft tyres and see how long they can take us, but hopefully the rain doesn't get heavier. It's still raining out on track at the moment, but the team still think it's okay to go onto these ultra soft tyres. A 2.4 second stop there from the team. We're still out in P5, so a good pit stop there from those guys. I think it was only really Daniel Ricciardo who may have got out ahead of us, but he has still got to make a pit stop in today's race. We're now cutting ahead to lap 13. Sebastian Vettel not too far ahead of us at the moment. I think there is a Mercedes still yet to come into the pits as well, so we're going to see whereabouts that Mercedes does rejoin out on track. So we take it nice and cautiously through the chicane at the moment. Of course, it has only just dried up, so we don't want to push too much on this set of tyres, but it looks like we might be setting the fast lap of the race, which we do, a 1:22.396. So you could just hear a little lock up as we go down in towards turn 2, but it didn't really matter too much, and we have come out ahead of Valtteri Bottas at the Canadian Grand Prix. We hold on to P3 for the time being, and what a fantastic outlap that was to stay ahead of Valtteri Bottas, get the job done, and look at that, now onto the podium. But question is, can we stay there? Still a long way left to go in today's race, but can we stay ahead of Valtteri Bottas? Now cutting ahead to lap 15. We've got the Mercedes driver very much on our tail, so he will be going for the overtake quite soon. So we're now going down in towards this chicane. Valtteri Bottas having a look up the inside, giving him room on the right hand side, having to take the inside line through the second part of the chicane. Very, very close between the two of us, but just about managing to hold on to that podium position. Unfortunately though, this battling, whilst it's taking place, is falling into Max Verstappen's hands. It's allowing him to catch up onto the back of this train and now possibly go for the overtake on both of us. But Valtteri Bottas very, very keen to get past us now. He's on the left-hand side, going down into the final chicane. Has he got something up his sleeve to go for the overtake around the outside? Valtteri Bottas so much later on the brakes there. Great braking from the Mercedes driver. Just shows how superior that car is compared to our Renault. The Mercedes can just brake so much later than we can, especially on the normal racing line. Unfortunately, Valtteri Bottas does take away third position. We're going to just have to settle for P4 for the time being. But let's have a look at a replay of that fantastic overtake from Valtteri Bottas. So here he is, following in the slipstream, using DRS to full effect now, down on the left-hand side, taking that normal racing, normal dry line. Unfortunately, we're on a sort of damper line down towards this chicane. He can just brake so much later than we can. And there he goes, job done for Valtteri Bottas, and he holds on to P3, and he's onto the podium, and now he can possibly try and catch up to Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton to regain top spot in today's race, as we are now going into turns 3 and 4. A little bit of a corner cut there through turn 3, but let's just forget about that for the time being, as we go through this left-hander now in towards the right, setting purple at the moment through sector 1. So we are very, very happy with that right now. But if we look at the fuel, we're on -2 laps of fuel at the moment, so we're going to have to conserve our fuel at the moment. And you can actually see out on track, the rain has started to come down. So it's raining once again in today's race, which means that we probably went onto the right strategy for today's race on those ultra soft tyres. But just look at that, it's now too wet for the dry tyres, certainly from my point of view. Not too sure about Max Verstappen, as he seems to be doing okay on those soft tyres, but for me on the ultra soft tyres, it is just not good enough anymore. The virtual safety car is out. So there has been an incident somewhere on the circuit that has brought out the virtual safety car. That's going to fall perfectly into my hands, because I'm going to be coming into the pits right now for a set of intermediate tyres. And it also stops Max Verstappen from overtaking me before we come into the pit lane. He could still get the overtake done as we come into the pit lane. We're just going to have to wait and see for that. Hopefully the Renault pit crew is quicker than the Red Bull one, but At the moment, Max Verstappen will stay behind us as we come into the pits now for a new set of intermediate tyres. What are the times going to be for the pit stops? We've got a Mercedes coming out now. Looks like it was a quick pit stop there from the Red Bull crew. And what about we going to do? It's not good enough. It's a 4.1 second stop there from the Renault crew. And we have come out right on the tail of Max Verstappen. Unfortunately, we've lost out here. So we have lost out to the Red Bull driver. He's come out in P4. We're in P5, and now we've got a lot of work to do. The virtual safety car is in, so we can go on the attack of Max Verstappen and see if we can get back in towards P4. But we're just going to have to wait and see how the rest of this race goes, as there's a race control car 3:33:34. That's Daniel Ricciardo, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton have been awarded a drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car. Now this falls perfectly into our hands. So all these drivers have got penalties. Lewis Hamilton running ahead of us. Daniel Ricciardo closing in behind us. And Max Verstappen also ahead of us. Max Verstappen, we're going to get the job done on him. Not too sure about Lewis Hamilton though. Just depends how far up ahead of me he is on the track. I'm not too sure at the moment. I think he was leading the race. But I believe that was because, it's kind of a mistake by the game there, but I believe that was because Max Verstappen actually overtook me in the pit lane under virtual safety car. I'm not too sure whether that is correct or not, but I believe that is exactly what has happened. But here on lap 20, Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo and Lewis Hamilton have all got a drive-through penalty. So Max Verstappen will be serving that on this lap. And there he goes into the pits, and we are going to overtake him for P4. But whereabouts is Lewis Hamilton gonna be? Where's Lewis Hamilton gonna be out on circuit? Will he come out ahead of Valtteri Bottas? I think he has. There he is. Lewis Hamilton going through turn 2. Valtteri Bottas just behind him. So unfortunately not able to get the overtake there on Lewis Hamilton. But we have moved up into P4, so that does mean more points for ourselves. We're now having a look at replay. Now this is what brought out the virtual safety car. So watching Nico Hülkenberg at the moment, he comes into the pits for a new set of tyres. I assume going on to a set of intermediate tyres. Let's see exactly what happened to Nico Hülkenberg. Was there a problem in the pit lane, and that's what brought out the virtual safety car? Would it be a bit surprising if that was the case? Everything seems fine with the tyre change. Yes, it is. All 4 tyres look like they're on properly as well, so it doesn't look like any of the tyres have fallen off here. Say Nico Hülkenberg exiting the pit lane, has a few cars ahead of him, a few cars behind. So what on earth happened through here? Nico Hülkenberg just goes into a massive spin as he exits the pit lane. What on earth has happened there? I don't know what has happened there to Nico Hülkenberg. Unfortunately, I guess it's just a big glitch with the game. But unfortunately for Nico Hülkenberg, he exits the pit lane, loses the back end somehow, and that's the end of his race. He's just parked it on the inside of turn 2 there, and that's him. Job done. Job done for Nico Hülkenberg. Unfortunately, out of today's race. I think it actually goes down as a disqualification. I'm not 100% sure on that. We'll have to wait till the end of the race. But I believe that has gone down as a disqualification there for Nico Hülkenberg. But here we are on our own race now, and on lap 31. So only 4 laps of the race left to go. And we are running very comfortably in P4 at the moment. It's been quite a while since we last came into the pits, and that penalty system sort of messed up. But it looks like we're coming into the pits for, yet again, another pit stop in today's race. I think that's our 4th of the race so far. So the Renault crew have definitely had to be on their A game here today with quite a lot of pit stops for themselves. We're coming into the pits for a set of dry tyres. Going to go on to the ultra soft tyres all the way till the end, because of course there's only 4 laps left to go, so there's no point going on to the super softs or the normal softs. But coming out in P5 behind Max Verstappen or Daniel Ricciardo at the moment. I'm not too sure which one it is. I believe it's going to be Max Verstappen at the moment. But a 2.4 second stop there from the Renault crew, and that is very nice indeed. We've just got to wait and see though what we can do in this race. Surely we are going to catch up to Max Verstappen. It's dry out on track. It's definitely time for the dry tyres. If he is running on those intermediate tyres all the way to the end, then surely there is going to be a problem there for Max Verstappen, as we're now watching on board with Lewis Hamilton. So he's on lap 34 and his engine's given up. Oh no! Lewis Hamilton with 2 laps left to go. I'm not too sure whether he was leading the race or not. I think he was, but unfortunately there for Lewis Hamilton, he is out of today's race. Lewis Hamilton, disaster there for the Mercedes driver, but this is fantastic news for myself. We are on to the podium. Absolutely incredible scenes. Daniel Ricciardo 10 seconds behind us out on track at the moment, and as it stands, we have got a podium for the second race in a row here at the Canadian Grand Prix, but we need to hold on to it. No mistakes for the rest of this race. We've got a nice, comfortable 10-second lead over Daniel Ricciardo. We've got two drivers behind us who are actually lapping fairly quicker than us out on circuit, which is a little bit strange at the moment. We've got Fernando Alonso behind us. I think it's just because of engine wear, unfortunately, at today's race. Those guys having fresher engines than ourselves, so that is why they are catching up to us at the moment. But yeah, unfortunately getting caught up there by Fernando Alonso and also the Sauber driver who are running us back markers. But hopefully they don't do anything silly. Hopefully they don't get in our way and we can run this final lap nice and comfortably all the way to the checkered flag and get that podium that we desperately desire in this season. Of course, we got a race win back at the Monaco Grand Prix, which was like 2 months ago now. We got a race win there, which was absolutely fantastic. But if we can make it back-to-back podiums at today's race, that'll be amazing. As we lose the back end through the chicane, managed to catch it. We let Alonso go through. We're also going to let the Sauber go through as well, because there's no point fighting him. You know, he's not a car that we need to fight. Pascal Wehrlein, though, hugging the right-hand side. What is he doing? Wehrlein, just get out of my way. I don't want to fight you in today's race. You can unlap yourselves against me because I just don't care. I've got a nice, comfortable lead over Daniel Ricciardo at the moment. But here is the man who has driven absolutely perfectly throughout this whole entire race. Sebastian Vettel wins the Canadian Grand Prix. Fantastic result there for the Ferrari man. And it is a Ferrari on the top step of the podium. Surely the Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas is going to come home in second place as we now overtake Pascal Wehrlein once again. What are you doing, Wehrlein? Get out of the way! Wehrlein, what are you doing? Why is he in my way there? But Valtteri Bottas, he comes home in P2. But it's a podium for the second time in a row for myself. Fantastic result. Absolutely amazing result here today, the Canadian Grand Prix. A great qualifying session to put ourselves up into P5. But then also to get onto the podium as well. That is the cherry on top. What a race. What an incredible race at the Canadian Grand Prix. A podium here today. Back-to-back podiums in the F1 2017 career mode. I think that is the first time I've got back-to-back podiums. I mean, it has been a while since I have done career mode, but I'm pretty sure that is the first time I've got back-to-back podiums in this career. So that is absolutely amazing to do so. And Sebastian Vettel, there he is, winning today's race with Valtteri Bottas in second. Myself in third podium here today. Daniel Ricciardo beats his teammate of Max Verstappen to P4 with Verstappen in 5th. Then it's Esteban Ocon in 6th. Carlos Sainz in 7th. Danny Kvyat in 8th. Kevin Magnussen 9th. And Sergio Perez rounds out the top 10, getting the final championship point here today. Lance Stroll finishes just outside the points in P11. Disappointing for him, with Kimi Raikkonen making his way up into P12, so that was pretty decent from him to make his way back up into P12. But unfortunately, that error at the start of the race when the two of us went side by side really cost him. And unfortunately, it's no points scored there for the Ferrari man, with Felipe Massa in 13th. And looking further down the field, we have Roman Grosjean in P14, Stoffel Vandoorne in 15th, Pascal Wehrlein 16th, then Fernando Alonso finishes in P17 with Marcus Ericsson in 18th, and our two DNFs were Lewis Hamilton in P19, and yes, it was a disqualification there for Nico Hülkenberg, who had a really weird glitch happen to him as he exited the pit lane. So disappointing there for my teammate not to get any points. I feel like he was running in a good position to maybe pick up a few points here today, but the strange thing happened to him, and it's just unfortunate we have missed out on points as a team. But we will pick it up at the next one, at the Austrian Grand Prix, I believe it is, or it's Azerbaijan. We will pick it up at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and hopefully we can get a double points finish for the team. Drivers' Championship then, after 7 rounds of this season, and we're in P2. P2 in the Drivers' Championship. I mean, going into this season, my goal was to sort of challenge around the Red Bull drivers, and somehow, out of it all, we are in P2 at the moment. Okay, I don't really expect myself to stay there much longer. The Mercedes and the Ferraris are going to have better seasons than ourselves. But for now, we will cherish this moment. P2 in the drivers' standings, and hopefully, you know, if Sebastian Vettel has some bad results, then maybe for a couple of races, we could sit at the top of the leaderboard. But as it stands, P2, I'm very happy with that. And the goal to beat the two Red Bulls is going absolutely perfectly right now. Finally, though, taking a look at the Constructors' Championship. We're sitting comfortably in P4 ahead of the Force India drivers and also the Williams. The Williams and Force India's having a little bit of a battle between themselves, but the main goal at the moment is to try and beat Red Bull. They are currently sitting 20 points ahead of us in the standings. So there is a bit of a gap between the two teams, but if Nico Hulkenberg and myself can start to get some really good points in this season, then potentially we could be able to catch up to the Red Bull team. But we're just going to have to see how it goes. But that is it for this Canadian Grand Prix. If you guys have enjoyed the episode, don't forget to smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for daily Formula 1 content. You know, we've got Rags to Riches free, F1 2017 career mode, and a whole load of other Formula 1 content as well. And as always, don't forget to leave your comments in the section below, and I will try to read as many as possible and also reply to as many as possible as well. I tend to reply to pretty much all comments, so you know, if you do leave a comment down below, you're guaranteed that there is a high chance that I will reply to your comment. But that is it for today's Canadian Grand Prix. I will see you next time in Azerbaijan. But until then, it's goodbye from me.